Okay, so let's talk about Performance Max. It always shows good ROAS, but it's the reason I've been burned by it too much. Because sometimes you want to scale and it's like, okay, it's scaling, but then you check your overall marketing efficiency ratio and it just goes down. I'm looking at campaigns and they are getting better and better, but then I look in analytics and I'm like, how did I lose 10% of my revenue? Like something got a little bit messed up here. And so what we found that happens sometimes too often, but also what is the best feature of the campaign, is it will hunt for any conversions it possibly can, even if it didn't originate with them. And that's where we started to see things go wrong. It's just going to cannibalize everything you are doing. If there is not easy conversion to capture, Google will spend more money and then it will earn a remarketing click somewhere and it will show that it had good ROAS on that sale. So when you try to scale it, it will attribute more sales to itself. It's either you getting good non-brand cold traffic that cannot scale, or it's sort of cannibalizing other channels like your direct channel or your organic or your email. So it starts to over-attribute to itself a little bit, and that's where things can go wrong. Especially if you have a lot of good brand recognition and you are not necessarily wanting to max out the brand. It will start to capture people that are coming in from Facebook or Instagram or organic. It doesn't matter where they originally coming from. It will remarket and it will show ad for them. And the bad part about PMAX 2 is because it can have an engage to view conversion and it will make YouTube videos by default. It doesn't even need to earn a click to attribute conversions to itself, and that's where it gets a little bit screwy. It's because you can have a person that get ready to convert, and as long as they see a YouTube ad within by default 3 days of converting, PMAX will say, yeah, I got someone. So it can over-attribute itself too much. Again, when PMAX works, it's amazing. These are just pitfalls, but it works unbelievable and it will be everywhere. It will be on search, on shopping, on YouTube, on Gmail sponsored promotions, on Discover and on display. It will do a fantastic remarketing. It can show up just like a DSA campaign for all your search categories, and it will give you a good non-brand top placement in shopping, and it works extremely well. So what we are going to talk about today is how to set it up to limit any sort of over-attribution and get it to a really diverse campaign. And I also will show you some of the learning lessons that we learned over this and last year. Little tips and tricks that we found out about how to build an account to a high degree of scalable non-brand cold traffic. That's what we are going to do today. So let's dive in. I will share with you just last 30 days of performance to know that it's working well. 19,000 in cost, 82,000 in conversion value, so it's getting a really good return. So when we are looking at the asset groups, we build out 59 different asset groups. Most companies have only one, sometimes three. Cool, there is 59 different asset groups. This is important. What we found out is that Google will take a sum total of all the impressions and evenly distribute them throughout the asset groups, sort of regardless of signal, and so it gets very interesting thought process, because what happens is if you have 100,000 impressions in a week and you have one asset group, that one asset group will get 100,000 impressions. If you have two asset groups, each one gets about 50ish, or like one might get 40 and second might get 60. But then if you have three asset groups, each one will get 33,000, so it kind of evenly distributes them. If I have this asset group here and people say, interest and demo, perfect. So people that are interested in men's shorts are only going to go to this asset group. It's completely false. So this signal actually does very, very little. That's what we found out. The signal is sort of put there just to give the people feeling that, okay, at least I'm sending it off in the right direction. It really doesn't work that way at all. Your site's data and your product feed, if it's e-commerce, is 10 times more powerful than what the signal says there. So what's interesting is we started to kind of just group these signals together and then diversify them with that copy. So what happens is you will see I have an interest in demo and it says men's shorts, men's apparel. There is 6 more here, but this is going to button down short asset group, because here there is people interested in men's apparel. So what we found is that the interest of the signal just doesn't need to be your audience. It needs to not be your own data. It needs to be something that is categorically around the type of products that you are trying to sell. But then you are using your ads to differentiate the traffic. You are very rarely going to get a person that's looking for shorts and then click on shoes and then go and buy shorts. It does happen, but not as often. So your ad copy is doing the heavy lifting on directing the users to the areas where they need to go. It's not the signal that's bringing in the user, the signal is coming in, but if someone's looking for shorts, the asset group's listing group will say here's my shorts because that data in the feed matches up to the search term, and it will naturally show this asset group as the asset group that needs to be shown, and then people are coming in. So it's very strange, it's almost like running a standard shopping and DSA campaign together, and this audience signal it's almost like an observation. For example, user is looking at socks. Well, that's men apparel, perfect. How many asset groups does match that interest? You see 59, 48, 50, 44, so it's almost broad match for interests. So they overlap so much, but you let the person dictate their own path, and that's where you will see, like for example, I have this one, Grateful Dead golf shirt. Well, if I go into the Grateful Dead golf shirt, that had 44 asset groups. That's going into button down, polo and all products, and my all products won. They choose what they wanted based on the ad they saw and the product that they clicked on. So this is more just suggestive targeting, and it's just a big wall of ads, and then people like, well, that's what I'm interested in. Okay, was it from the signal? No, the signal didn't do too much. The signal was, yes, this is a male apparel interested user. Now choose 2000 SKUs. The way that you can really help win non-brand cold traffic inside of Performance Max is very well diversification of your asset groups. When you show everything into one asset group, the learning algorithm basically just a stupid machine when you're talking about recognition of what the owner of the ads campaign would want. All they know is this word does good, fine, that's good. But when this word does good and it's your brand, why? Well, it didn't really test much else. Why? Well, it had 5 pictures and all of your products, so people that are googling your brand always click on one of your products and always convert. So it will do that all the time. It's not diversifying the signals, which I know sounds stupid, but the more signals you can put in there, the better it will go. But you really need to diversify your asset groups. Most people will say, well, you don't want to diversify your asset groups too much. I would agree. I think that is heavily dependent upon your ad spend. If you look, we have $500 day budget, which is not a small budget, it's a healthy budget, more than enough for over 59 asset groups. I think spend dictates, that's what we should be telling everyone. I'm not gonna put 59 assets group for like $20 a day. I don't have enough ad spend to fill up the activity for all those products, so what we really should be telling people is depending upon the level of spend. That's what's going to dictate how many asset groups you have. You can break them into separate campaigns. It's completely hit or miss, and it's out of everyone's control. You're gonna have people that will visit multiple times, and so when you visit multiple times, you're gonna jump between PMAXs. So we won't know where user starts his journey and where it ended. If you don't care, that's okay. Because it's going to cannibalize the return traffic between the two of them, that makes it a little bit more difficult. What you can do to mitigate that is to run your own brand campaign, and when you run your own brand campaign on search, in addition to PMAX, you do help pull that out. What I mean by that is you will see this brand campaign. Here last 30 days, I spent $85. So $85 total, I made almost $14,000 in sales. So this campaign here, because I have 9 cent cost per click and my cost per conversion is pretty much like 80 cents, something ridiculously cheap, I'm taking this 14,000 out of this PMAX campaign here that would have captured it. It would have shown up for it, but because I have another campaign that's doing better than my brand search inside of my PMAX. My PMAX is then more free to use the total daily ad spend on non-brand traffic. Inside of these asset groups, because I've grouped them categorically, I'm actually capitalizing on a normal human's buying process in order to replicate that same buying process at scale. When you are looking for board shorts, for example, very rarely you look at the board shorts on a website and then say, well, I'm buying the bow tie. It doesn't happen. You're gonna buy board shorts, it just may not be the exact board shorts that you clicked on from the ad. You might find a different one. So what I'm doing here is I'm essentially trying to bring Google to the way of finding repeat traffic the way that they purchase. So people that are looking for polos, 80% of time buy polos. People that look for board shorts, 80% of time buy board shorts. So what's nice when I look inside of this PMAX campaign here, I can look at the insights. and I should be able to see something like this. If I look for a golf shirt and then I click on the 44 asset groups, and then they bought a polo, that's a golf shirt essentially. So there is all products here. Also they might have bought a polo or essentially a button down from here also. Personally, I don't remember the last time I clicked on it and converted. It always click and return click. If you look at the last 7 days, half of my conversions came from more than 2 clicks. You have to look at the other area here, which is a conversion lag. And now it also takes 18 days to get a user to convert. Even if you have 1 click to convert, it may be that they've been visiting you 18 times on Facebook and now they are ready to buy, so they Google the brand name, click once and buy. Some takeaways from this. What you can control. You can control the amount of ad spends that are being shown to the products that you want to make the most aware. That's something that we know is a constant, is a truth. We know that if we take all of our asset groups, so we well diversify them and we give them signals that are half irrelevant. We don't use our data too much. You can use our data, that's okay. If you have a really good LTV or you want those returned users and you are okay with paying for those returned users, that's okay. But just know that this is going to capture a little bit more than potentially what you may want. See, last 30 days we spent 19,000 and made 82,000. We have our 436% ROAS. This looks great. When you hop into PMax here, majority of the time is good non-brand cold traffic. That's good. It's not that great in the backend. It's good, but here's what we have to always just be aware of. And I'm okay with this because it's helping us gather an LTV. What I'm okay with is what I'm going to share with you now, is how much new and returning users is there in that 436 ROAS. No matter how you set up PMax, this will happen. Sometimes you definitely don't want this to happen, sometimes you're absolutely okay with it happening, having the return traffic. So this is backend. I'm using Northbeam just to share with you this data here. Last 28 days performance max, I have 2.4 ROAS on new traffic and I have a 3.48 on returning, but Google shows 460 for the last 29 days. And actually, if I just combine this here, performance max actually getting a 5.89, so it's getting a little bit better than what Google is showing. So we spent 17K and actually made $100,000. And Google says we spent 17 and make 80, so it's missing attribution. Google is just horrible at attribution. There is 20 grand missing. There is only 2 buttons that you can press inside of PMax. Maximize conversions or maximize conversion value. There is no bring me more non-brand cold traffic or give me a good placement or give me the best impression share. Google says, well, let's not bring cold traffic, then I don't see sales. Why? Well, they probably change devices, they come back indirectly and Google misses. So our PMax campaign, we know we spent 17 grand, we made 41 on first time sales. Good, that's a 2.4 ROAS on first time sales. It's 40 cost per acquired new customer, good. Also 423 first time sales this month, good stuff. Now what? Google is still taking credit for it though. Is the $60,000 in second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time sales. So I made an additional 60 grand and PMax says I'm 60k positive already. Don't try too hard, you already made 60 grand. New customers unfortunately didn't fix it. We've done this many times. We uploaded millions of customers. We turned on new customers only. The campaign traffic dropped by 60% and Google said yes, it's fine, it's only going after the new. After 4 days we found out that our divisional split between new and returning was just halved, but they didn't skew one way or the other. What should have happened is like 50 new, 50 returning. It should be just like 50 new, but it went to 25 new and 25 returning. I've tried it 4 times in 4 different clients, but same thing happened every single time. What's crazy though is that I got 60k in returning. I made a 3.48 on my returning already. My cost per returning customer still cost me $26, and then I had 660 returning. So Google said, hey, I'm getting 400 new and 600 returning. So that's the danger when you try to scale this. You just buy all your own customers back. Sometimes you want this is still a profit, I mean that cash is coming in, that's okay. So PMax is good and it's bad. We've been running it over a year or about a year and it's working great. Limitation from it that it's hard to scale. Sometimes you can pull back ad spend and just simply get a better ROAS. You will see it was 1,300 a day, I dropped it down to 700 a day, so I halved my ad spend. And what you will see, there is a lot of returning, you can scale, but you don't have to spend as much. I spent 39% less and I made 64% more sales. This is a fantastic campaign if you just like, hey, I want to sell whatever sells, I want my brand to be top placement, I want cold traffic, I want them to return. I mean, it's a great tool for it. Just know you will have a lot less control and sometimes you will overspend on it. But when you spend 50k a day for it, it won't work. For 80% of the advertisers out there, this is great. You're gonna make your repeated sales and you can have a very healthy business for a long time. Use well diversified asset groups, use your own audience as sparingly as you can. We only have, I think, 6 out of 60 that use our data, and that's by design. I do want those people to return, that's why we did this, and it just get a little bit too much returning. So you can use hoodies to custom segments, hoodies to converted audience, hoodies to interest and demos. I would probably also try to stick just all of my converted or all of my signals into one big signal, like a really big signal, and I just replicate that with asset groups each time. I would just stick every one of my signals into every single asset group and then let the people sort it out, like click on the products they want.